Oh, my name is Emily Simone. I am a registered nurse. My grandmother was an amazing woman. Her name was Catherine Simone. She was a registered nurse as well, and she has a pretty long-standing history of being quite an amazing nurse at the Good Samaritan Hospital. She started at the General Hospital that was down on Willow Street, and she ran the operating room there. And from that point, she was moved to the Good Samaritan Hospital, where they built a new OR, and she was brought in to run that OR. Years later, I became a nurse, and part of why I became a nurse was because of my grandmother. I started working at the operating room that my grandmother was managing, and there were still people that worked under her leadership. When I started there, she was such a great nurse. She was such a great manager. She never asked us to do something that we would never do. She ran a tight ship. We knew not to step out of line. If we were talking in the hallway and she came by, we quickly started acting like we were doing stuff. So I realized the impact that she had not only on me as a young woman, but her staff. And she was very, very well respected. As I started my position there, I thought to myself, well, these are some really big shoes to fill. She was a mentor in my life, and I remember seeing a newspaper article where she was recognized for her leadership skills and all of the positive things that she brought to the environment at the operating room at the Good Samaritan. And I just remember seeing her in that newspaper article and thinking to myself, I want to be her. But really, through seeing her take huge steps as a woman and leading and just having such an impact on others, especially working there and hearing it firsthand from not only the nurses and her staff, but a lot of the surgeons that she worked under, it had such an impact on me. She was just an amazing woman, an amazing nurse, and did so much for our community. She also was very connected with her church and helping others in the community through her church. St. Mary's at 8th and Cumberland. Yeah, so her and her husband. His name William Simone, my pawpaw, and they were just amazing people, role models, examples. A genuinely kind-hearted person. They had 2 children. My father, William Simone, my aunt, Ninetta. So Ninetta Dickerson, she's older, so they had Ninetta first. Ninetta is a nurse practitioner. So she went through nursing school at the University of Penn, and then she became a nurse practitioner, a neonatal ICU nurse practitioner. So she spent her time taking care of NICU babies, and she completed the application. We knew that my grandma needed to be recognized as for her impact in Lebanon County. My Aunt Ninetta, and then my father was a photographer here in Lebanon County. They raised 2 incredible human beings. My grandmother was born in Johnstown. Her family came to Lebanon County. Her father was in the war, and then when he came back, had a stroke. He was paralyzed on one side of his body. So she cared for my grandfather and her brothers. Of course, if we go back a little bit, the roles of a woman, right, and a young woman was a lot of the housework and taking care of the home. My great-grandmother, her mother, worked a lot because her husband was fallen ill. So my grandmother cared for him a lot and then cared for her brother. So she, from a very early age, took on the role of caretaking. I believe her mother said, hey, you're going to go to nursing school, and worked hard to pay for her to be able to go to nursing school. I remember my grandmother telling me that her mom would bake bread every day and sell the bread. She would also go and pick dandelion leaves, gather them, and sell them to make money. Also, kind of an arranged marriage to Italian families. My grandmother was very hard, but very loving, so you can be both. But she was always very honest. I think that one of the biggest things that I remember was just how selfless her employee or her workers knew that she was. They wouldn't stop talking about her because they knew that she was always going to do whatever she asked of them. Mrs. Simone, you're not going to find her in the office. She's back there and she's walking the halls and she's making sure stuff's being done. She'll be in the room, working, scrubbing in if she needs to. Them telling me, oh, Mama and Papa had to run up to Hershey to pick up an organ, literally an organ, like in a cooler. She would have it all ready to go. So she just really gave her life to the operating room. She was always on call, always.